Didn't mean to get that close.
Hey guys, welcome back to RC Restomod. Today we have a stack of Traxxas Trouble. Okay, let me give you a quick rundown. This is my OG Slash. This was the first hobby grade RC car I ever bought. It put me down this dark road of financial desolation that I'm on with RC cars, and it's not running right now because when I was working on the Slash, which was the first car we built on the channel, I borrowed the VXL ESC and motor from the OG to put in here. I now have a replacement motor and ESC that are going to go in here, and the OG is going to get its groove back. The Rustler is a flip. Let me give you a quick rundown of how I ended up in possession of this thing. Towards the end of Mark Santa Maria's swap meet there in Plano, a gentleman had a table full of stuff that he had been selling through the day. There was just a little bit left, and he just yelled out loud, "Everything that's on this table and the table at X number of dollars." Well, my buddy Brian Hyman and I went halves. I have the table, he's got some of the parts, I got some, you know, back and forth. And there was a truggy involved. Well, he traded the truggy to a local guy for this Rustler. So this Rustler needs to be prepared for a flip to raise a little money and make that decision to purchase the table and everything on it a viable one. So we got to do that. And then the crawler in the middle, it's got some new toys. It's going to be cool. I don't know. It's stuff I've never done before, so it's going to take a little time. The first thing that's going to go into the knife is the Rustler. We're going to take it all apart, clean it, and make it look like new. So let me get all this other junk out of the way, and we'll get started on this one. Okay, guys, this particular Rustler is a four-wheel drive VXL variant. One of the first things we got to do, once we take the body off, we're going to throw that busted that piece of junk away. We need to do some checking. The wiring for these, for the motor and ESC, is a bit sloppy. This connector, it's not good, and it doesn't stay together very well. I have a faulty VXL set. I'm going to grab the pieces from it and see if I can use some of the wiring from it and possibly the ESC, as this one has the ears broken off. If not, I've got a workaround for that. But it would be nice to put a different ESC in it and maybe different wires on the motor to make it all look really good so that we can sell it at a good price. Anyway, let me go grab the electronics, and then when I get done with that, actually we might do it first. I'm just going to rip this thing asunder. I'm going to take every part apart so that we can clean it and make them all look like new. So let's get that underway. Okay guys, we're going to take a little break here. I'm going to recharge this thing and go find the pieces of servo saver that went flying because I wasn't paying attention. Anyway, we'll pick back up here in a minute. Okay, and like boom, I changed my clothes and the wrestler's done. Actually, it took several days, more days than it should have, because we had a few issues, and one of the issues was me dealing with some illness and an injury. It's been nutso, but anyway, the car is done. I saved you the tedium of watching me tear it completely apart and put all the pieces in the ultrasonic cleaner. I did do that. Even the chassis plate fit on this one. Somehow, I don't know what this thing got into before Brian and I got a hold of it, but it didn't come as clean as some of the other stuff I've done. I was a little disappointed by that. But one of the issues we had was the motor and ESC. And let me show you. This is the insulation that was on the wires going from the plugs back to the motor. And it was terrible. It was rubbed into a few places, wrapped in tape. It was stiff and ugly. I thought about several different ways to go about fixing it. What I ended up doing was just wrapping it all in heat shrink and sucking it down. And I had red, green, and yellow heat shrink, or blue, green, and yellow heat shrink to keep it as close to factory as I could. Anyway, I think it looks nice. The little mounting ears were broken off of this ESC, so I don't know if you can see down in there or not, but there is a little plate I made out of ABS plastic, and I glued the ESC to it with some E6000. Once I got the plate all trimmed to fit in and bolt in properly, I just put some glue on the back of the ESC, put it in there, and then ran a spring clip, or a little clip or a clamp around the outside and squeezed on it, left it sitting for a couple hours, and it is rock solid. Anyway, we got a new receiver box, so everything's nice and orderly there. Anyway, it's all clean, put together, it works great, runs great. The wheels and tires cleaned up something awesome. So the very best part is the body that Brian picked out. And I'll show you what it looks like in 3, 2, 1, boom! And there it is. Man, does that thing look sharp? I'd said recently that I thought Traxxas needed to update their paint jobs a little bit. And let me tell you, they did on this one. Man, I've never seen this color combo on a Wrestler before. But it's a charcoal gray with lots of different blues. It does say 4x4 VXL on the side, which is accurate. It actually has that equipment. That thing looks too cool not to get a little turntable action on it. That is one good looking car. And it's available for sale. All right, next up we've got our Bad to the Bone Backyard Basher. That was the first build on this channel. And when I built it, it became the OG for RC Restomod. However, in order to get it going, I had to borrow the motor and ESC from my OG, my very first hobby grade RC ever in my life, which was a 4x4 VXL Slash. So we're gonna return the motor and ESC back to where it belongs. And what have we got to replace it? Well, I bought this off Amazon. I'll see if I can get the part numbers or whatever. This is from Hobby Fans. And it looks an awful lot like another dominant company whose name starts with Hobby when you get it out. But look at this neat little zippered case that it came in. And inside we got an ESC, or that's a fan. That's the fan. We got an ESC, a motor, and a program card for 54 bucks. I figure it can't be very good, but we'll give it a go and see what it's like. It's supposed to run on 2 or 3S. So we'll get it put together We'll take it out and run it on 3S and see if it's any good. All right, all the wiring's undone. Now let's get the mechanical parts done. All right, that's out with the old. Let's see how the new stuff's gonna fit. Oh, I may have made a miscalculation. Well, I think a lot of it may be the VXL motor has a much bigger cover on the back. So this is going to be a slightly smaller, or the diameter's the same, but it's slightly shorter, which should mean a little less torque. But the VXL is, I think, a 3500 kV motor, and this is a 4300 kV motor. So maybe it'll pick up a little more speed. Who knows? All right, that's got the new motor in it. Now we're going to have to make a new plate. You missed seeing that on the last one. I guess I'll go ahead and show it to you on this one, but we're going to make a mounting plate for this cute little ESC. Yeah. I think we're going to turn it that way. I think that's how it's going to mount, and that'll leave me access to the screws to put the plate in. So let me get some plastic and I need some plastic, a magic marker, and some tin snips, and we'll begin designing that plate. This one will be a lot easier than the last one. All right, well guys, I got all my goodies here. We've got a piece of sheet plastic, which is pretty flexible, but all it's got to do is bridge a gap across here so that we can screw here and here and have a nice flat place to put our ESC. And we'll take the ESC, figure out where it needs to go on said plate, we'll glue it to it, then we can run 2 screws in. This is going to be pretty simple. The first thing, now, if you should ever decide that you want to do harm to someone, like potentially lethal harm, figure out how to do it with a ruler. And when you get done, bring the ruler to my house. The cops will never find it. It will be gone forever. I don't know where my ruler is, and I don't know where my little square is. So what I'm going to do, a camber gauge locked in at 0 degrees gives you a right angle. So I can check to see if my plastic is cut square, and believe it or not, it is. So I do have a good right angle here, and that's a good place to start. Then I need something to measure with. We don't need the precision of calipers, but we need something to measure with. So I know that I don't want to hang past the back of the chassis plate, and I can't bump into this battery tie down. So I want to go from the battery tie down to the back of the chassis plate. Right there shows to be 56.5 millimeters. Let's go 55. So we'll go from our square edge and come back and mark 55. And the idea for me is always remove the line. Now the width of it, just going to measure across the outside of that. That's 56, and we actually want to be pretty accurate on that part of it. So these dots, black on black, my silver Sharpie is dead. I do have one. I was getting ready to use it, but it is dead. So if I get this in the light right, I can see the line pretty well, but I know there's no way you're going to see it on video. Now it's ABS plastic. There's a lot of good ways to cut it. The way I've found that makes it easy to get straight is tin snips. These would probably suck at metal since I've used them for plastic quite a few times, but man, they work good. And also when you're roughing in your RC bodies and you got like long cuts to make along the rocker panels and along the front and stuff, tin snips are so easy to make long straight cuts with. I highly recommend using them. All right, we'll pitch that out of the way. And there's our little plate. See how nice that fits on there? Now all we got to do is drill some holes in it. Which drilling 2 holes is easy. It's getting those 2 holes in exactly the right place that gets a little dicey. It's a 3mm screw. However, getting a 3mm hole to line up absolutely perfect is kind of a pain. And since this isn't like a super high precision kind of thing, we're going to use a 3.2. And bear with me just a minute. Something I forgot is I like to use a piece of wood for backing when I do some drilling. All right. Anytime I'm drilling pieces, I like to have a little piece of wood for a backstop so that my drill bit doesn't stab me and I don't accidentally drill a hole in my table. That should be lined up. I want it to be, looks good from both directions. That looks pretty good. Now let's see if it'll screw together, and let's see if I got enough room for it to screw in. Perfect fit. I missed by just a tiny little margin. So what I want to do is I want to move this hole, I want to slot it this way just a little bit. With thin plastic you can just get it running and push on your drill. That is slightly slotted. That's going to line up and screw down just fine. There is double-sided tape for a mounting option in this. I think we're going to take advantage of that. And it's 3M brand, so it may hold. That's all back together. Got the ESC stuck down to its custom plate. Let's get a controller and a battery and see if it works. All right, I've got a battery temporarily installed. I've got the controller out and turned on. I've got it up on a stand in case we got a runaway type scenario. And let's turn the power on. Things are doing things. Alright guys, the claim from the Chinese company that made this setup is that it self-learns and you don't need to calibrate the ESC. You can put it in that mode with the programmer, but unfortunately there's no place to plug the program card into this ESC, so I'm kind of confused. Normally it's the port that the fan plugs into for power on other ESCs I've had, but this one's only a 2-wire port, so there's no way to plug the programmer into the ESC. And then I unplugged the battery, plugged it back in, it started working, but the problem was the wheels were turning backwards, so I reversed the forward and reverse in my controller. Then when I did that, it would go slowly backwards and really fast forwards, and when you went forwards and hit the brake, it immediately started turning backwards like a crawler. So what I ended up doing was reversing the two power wires for the motor, and then I had to reverse the controller back, and all of a sudden, let's see. Okay, evidently the secret for this one is to turn the car on first, which we all know is wrong. But if you do that, it all seems to be working. So let's try that again. Let's turn the car off, turn the controller off, then we turn the car on first, and then the controller. Everything works. I'll just have to remember to use this one backwards and make sure that the back wheels are elevated each time I turn it on so it doesn't run away. But anyway, it works. It should be more powerful, and that also frees up the motor and ESC that were in this one to go back into my OG car. So let's do that real quick. All right. Get this shit out of my way. This was my first hobby grade RC car, and it of course loaned its motor to the Volkswagen so we could get it up and running. And now that it has its own little cheap Chinese motor, let's put the good stuff back in this one. Oh. My ESC was good before. That's good because when I was digging through my stuff, I found another VXL motor that worked fine except for the fact that it got really hot really fast. So I should be able to send that one back to Traxxas on their repower deal, and for a very affordable price have a whole VXL setup ready to go into something, possibly back into the Volkswagen when it takes a dump. You get a battery and a controller, we'll double check to make sure this one works. All right, we got that turned on. Okay, next up on the list of my troubled Traxxas collection is going to be this crawler here. My TRX4. And really, the only thing wrong with it right now is the tires fold under way too much, because now that I've added the weight, it's got issues with the foams being too soft, and it also has a problem with shocks that bind. So I'm gonna have to figure out what that's all about. Like I see right now, that wheel's hanging up, but if I just bump it a little bit, it'll fall, and then it works for a while until it doesn't. So I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with the shocks. I tried doing just a droop setup so it doesn't have any springs on it right now. I didn't notice a difference. So some shock work is gonna be in the near future, but that's not what we're doing today. What we're doing today is we're putting a very cool functioning remote control winch on this thing. I anticipate the electronics being a bit of an issue and taking me some time to figure out, but I've got time. Let's see what we can do. We want the cable to come out in the center, so I'm going to have to trim off the bottom of that just a little bit. You see right here, I made a little notch where the motor needs to stick through. All right, guys, we're picking up much later because I lost this. This right here is the remote for the winch we got mounted up. So the winch is sitting here, it's all mounted up, ready to go. But I could not find that remote, and without the remote, the winch is pretty worthless. Now, in order to make the thing work, I've got to get this little box in somewhere, and it's getting a bit crowded in this TRX4. The selectable diffs and 2-speed transmission and all that, it's pretty cool, but my gosh, it leaves the inside of this thing really crowded. I took a look at the receiver. There's only one spot left open in it, and this winch really isn't designed to run off your receiver anyway. So what we're going to use to power it is this battery. It's a battery I bought for my boat. It can do double duty. We're not going to crawl and boat on the same day, most likely, and if we do, I'll figure something out. But the power cord that came to run this little box has a Dean's on it. So does this battery, so that's convenient. I am going to have to order a forward battery tray for a TRX4. They do exist. The price that companies are asking for them is low enough that I don't want to make something custom because it just doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to just purchase something. So we'll do that. We'll be able to make the winch work, but we're not going to be able to really crawl with the functioning winch just yet. So I think the first thing I need to do is mount my box. And I was looking for a place. These little deals here are pretty busy. I could cut off these little tabs and mount them there. I think that's actually what except I want to make rock sliders, and I was planning on using some of these holes to mount rock sliders, so I don't want to lose these sleeves, because being able to run long bolts, I mean, I'll have to drill through the top, but being able to run long bolts through these sleeves will give me the strength I need for my rock sliders to actually slide on. So I don't want to do that. The other option I came up with is to double-sided tape it to the top of the shifting servo. I don't think that's going to hurt a thing, and I think that's the option we're going to take. All right, got my goodies here. First thing we're going to do is clean the top of the little shifting servo and the bottom this little box. I know this whole truck needs cleaning, but the first step towards cleaning it would be compressed air. And that involves being outside. And guys, it is 19 degrees in San Angelo, Texas today. And that is not fit weather. All right, we're gonna peel that tape off. There's a tiny little on-off switch. You got to shove something down that hole to turn it on and off. We want to make sure it clears the shifter mechanism and that it looks pretty square, and now it does. And now I'm just going to press her down good and tight, and that should be mounted well enough to ride around, even as rough as you've seen me be on this car. The wires are getting messy on this thing. There's going to be a lot of zip tie work done once we get all this hooked up. All right, that's hooked up there. And we've got this long wire here. That'll plug in there. Then this will plug into our secondary battery. Let's see what we got. All right, now let's see what we got going in. Alright guys, it works. Now one other thing they did include was this neat little shackle so that you can hook it onto things, because the factory, the piece on the end, while it looks very much like a winch hook, doesn't move. Okay. That's in all the way, and I think I've got it in to where it won't interfere with where it's not going to be the first thing that hits if I fall off of something or when I go down a ledge. It'd probably be wise to leave just a little bit of slack in it so that if it does hit, it can fold up rather than you know, breaking something up in there. But anyway, now we got a winch on the. Now we need to do some upgrades to the transmitter. I'm still using the Traxxas transmitter because I can just look and see what's going on with my differentials. I took a zip tie and attached the winch remote to this lanyard that I found in my stuff, and we're going to put it right there. And now maybe I won't lose that little tiny remote again. And there's one other remote. I got to thinking, if I'm winching and driving and doing that stuff all at once, I'm going to be a fairly busy person needing an extra hand. And when I was at Mark Santa Maria's swap meet, he was passing out a tool that would help me quite a bit when I'm needing 3 hands to make it to where I only need 2. So we're going to take that wheel off. We'll pull the little foam tire off of the wheel. I got one of these. It's a 3D printed thumb steer. It goes on there. Now with the foam in place, it'll still drive normally a vast majority of the time, but I can put my thumb there and give it a little steering while I'm operating the throttle and the winch simultaneously. So, fairly excited about how that's going to go down. So that looks good. And got something you may not know, if you have a TRX, if you have a TRX4, up on top there's a menu button and a set button. And if you're just driving along down a trail, you can pull your throttle, and if you're comfortable with the speed you're going, if you press set and release, your truck will continue going at that same speed until you hit the reverse button and back it off. So you're driving along, you get about midway, you hit set, and then you get to a flat portion where it's smoother. You can adjust that multifunction knob, and it will change the speed. It'll change the throttle in your vehicle. It'll speed it up or slow it down. So I normally leave it set about halfway so that I can take advantage of that, because sometimes it's quite a walk from where we park to where we crawl, and it's just convenient to let it basically have cruise control. Anyway, if you didn't know that, it's kind of a cool thing. I'd had one for a couple of years before I knew that it would do that. So, hope you enjoy that, but I've got a teaser for our next episode. Hang on just a moment, let me get that. Here's the teaser. Look at the wheels it has on it now. Look at how wide the slick is in the back. Now check this out. We got some factory drag slash tires I bought off of Jenny's Off-Road, or Jenny's 4-wheel. I got some drag slash wheels. They're very scale looking. John's Mustang, when we went out, was hooking just fine on them. And guys, look at the width difference. Holy moly. I just turned my small tire Pinto into a big tire Pinto. This thing is gonna rock. And just from a looks point of view, look at that. Look at that. I mean, come on. We gotta put those things on it. Anyway, y'all have a great day, and we'll catch you next time. I'll try not to let it be 10 days next time. Hopefully, don't want to make excuses, but we went out crawling one day and I twisted my knee. So the next day, all I wanted to do was sit around with my leg propped up. I got sick, and then it got damn cold. And when it gets damn cold, I have trouble motivating myself. But anyway, you guys have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.